Hey guys, welcome back to What's Up With That? And as promised, here's part 2 of our discussion. Dr. Maszlee, how concerned are you though? I mean, because online learning is, you mentioned except Singapore and Japan in many cases, right? Because they were used to online learning at some point. How concerned are you that not just the formative years they've lost and everything, but a lot of these students, number one, they didn't actually learn according to the syllabus because they were connection issues and whatnot. But learning online and learning in class, you were right about this. You mentioned that because they learn about how to socialize with other kids in class, how you learn all that. How concerned are you about these kids, especially those in standard 1 or whatnot, when they go into further down the line? Do you think we're gonna be able to see, these were the kids because they can't work properly, they don't know how to mix with other people properly. When they go into higher education, they're a bit slower. Are you concerned about that?
Definitely. Actually, JD, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's not only my concern, but concern of most educators.
And the parents, I suppose.
And parents alike. So this is where I propose, we are in a very unique situation. It requires a very unique approach towards it, a very, let me say, unprecedented intervention towards it. But thus far, we heard nothing from the ministry. So rather than blaming people, I think I should start something.
Just do it right yourself.
Yeah, our Murid Cice, where we train our change makers, our volunteers, not only to teach the students all these basic menulis, mengira, and membaca, but also they must teach those kids all these life skills, all these values.
How, at one point you actually mentioned also about the connection issues and you actually got the tablets for the kids and whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. Really though, how far behind are we when it comes to technology for our students? Because if you live in an urban setting, you're like KL and Ipoh and Penang. But the other kids in the pedalaman areas, in the kampongs and whatnot, and Sabah Sarawak, they're not getting not only the gadgets, but also the connection. How bad is it really?
It's terribly bad.
Wow.
The disparity is massive. It's colossal, I would say. Mm-hmm. I mean, but again, JD, you're talking about KL and all those cities. But mind you go to the PPRTs.
Yeah.
Same issue. Yes, they may have good internet connectivity due to, where they're situated in. But again, they don't enjoy the privilege of having one kid, one device.
Yep.
Yeah, especially for those who are coming from PPRT, where both parents have to go to work even during MCO, and the kids were left without any device. So that's among the issues. So this thing, it should be addressed holistically. And to be honest, the government or the ministry shouldn't work in silo. But it didn't happen, unfortunately.
Dr. Maszlee, it's such a debatable, and everybody is an expert when it comes to education for some reason. Whether they know enough or they don't know enough, everybody seems to be an expert in education in Malaysia, and it's so hotly debated. I would love to just get a rapid fire answer from you right now and go through this. Just want to get your thoughts on these real quick ones. Vernacular schools, yes or no?
I'm not sure why this question keep popping out.
Yeah, because everybody keeps talking about it.
While we are having a lot of other core and principal issues in education. When I first came into the office, I was surprised when I was given a file of the dilapidated schools throughout the nation, especially in Borneo, in Sabah and Sarawak. We have more than 2,000 schools then in a state of, I don't know how to describe it. And
falling apart, basically.
Falling apart. And I went to Sarawak, I went to Sabah, and I experienced it, seeing by my bare eyes, the condition of that school. When people ask me about all these, let me say, questions, I would say that is not my priority at the moment, because I need to make sure that everybody have an equal access to quality education When I mean by quality education, it's not only the contents of education, but also it involves the infrastructure and the infrastructure. So
Right.
how in the world you're going to talk about what's happening in Bangsa or maybe in Shah Alam, while people in Tawau or people in Baram,
Kudat or whatever, right? Yeah.
Kudar, whatever, or even when I went to Marang, the same issue. I mean, they're studying in dilapidated schools.
Right.
And you want to talk about all those sorts of, let me say, sensationalized and sensitive questions, while you have a lot of undocumented children. I'm not talking about illegal immigrants. I'm talking about our citizens, those children who has no document. Maybe they were born out of wedlock. Maybe their families have issues or whatever, but they have no document. Maybe their parents, it's one of the parents is not Malaysian, but they were born without document and they cannot get access to schools. And they have to be punished for whatever their parents are doing. And that is not fair. And there's no justice in it. This is why we introduced zero reject policy.
Yep.
I still remember we try to tell the schools, we try to tell the PPD, if you have any children with this kind of cases, accept them to school and assist them and assist the parents to get the document. And the documented part is the job of JPN, Jabatan Pendaftaran. They should be doing that. And at schools, our responsibility is to accept those children and to educate them. Because if you don't educate them now, if you close the door of schools to them, they would end it up in the door of the prison.
Yeah. It will be a problem later on, right?
Yeah, later on.
Yeah.
After 10 years. If you open the door of schools now for them, you're closing the door of prison to them 10 years later.
So you're saying basically, let's not talk about vernacular or not. Let's fix the basic problems first.
Let we address the real issue.
Yeah. And then get to it later on, right? But so it's slightly politicized, the whole vernacular schools one. Also another one is, and it's been back and forth for like the longest time. English as the language to be used for some subjects, math and science. It was English, then it was not. Then it was English again, then it was not. What are your thoughts on that?
The question would be why? They say that is it because of English, or is it because of science, or is it because of mathematics? I concluded that some people, they thought that you want our children to have a better future in their job life, in their future life, they must know science and math in English. That is not the answer, because when you have a boring content, you have contents of mathematics and science that the children have to write them and they cannot apply them in their life, and ended up they cannot, they cannot make themselves, they cannot make those lessons applicable to their life. What's the point of it? When you have a lot of teachers who are not well trained, not in English, not in mathematics and science, but you are forcing them to teach mathematics and science in English, you're only destroying the future, not only the children, but also the teachers.
Right. Okay. So again, we're not addressing the real basic problem.
Yeah. We need to address those issues based on its
merits? No.
Merits. For example, when I look at our sciences and math, how they've been taught, and the content, we are far left behind Singapore.
Well, yeah.
I still remember Singapore, they have this method they call A-Math. And teach science. I really love the sciences books that they taught the children. And you know what, JD? Those modules been taught in some of the Latin American countries in Spanish.
Right.
Contents, it was not taught in English because people there, they don't use English.
Yeah.
They translated it into Spanish. They've been taught with that content. It's the content. It's not the language that's been used.
Let's talk about the education level of teachers, because there's been a lot of talk about this, but back in the day, you aspired to be a teacher. And these days, unfortunately, the general consensus or perception is that if you can't get a job anywhere else, you become a teacher. That's what people generally think. Do you agree to these perceptions?
I would say it's a false prejudice towards teachers, because you know that the very basic qualification to become teachers nowadays in Malaysia is you must have a degree.
Right.
You still remember, I did launch the effort of the initiative we call scholarly teachers.
Right.
We are pushing our teachers to do their master degree.
Yeah.
And not only that, we're trying to work together with certain higher education institutions to accept the teaching hours that could be translated into micro credentials. But eventually, after certain hours they have been teaching,
right,
you just need to sit for 1 or 2 subjects and come out with a paper or sitting for an exam, and they can get their master degree. That was part of things that we tried to do, but I heard it's no longer there again.
Right.
And I would say that and to get him or herself to the IPG, Institute Perguruan, and also to the Faculty of Education, it's not easy.
Right.
You must have a good grades.
You must qualify for it, right?
Yeah, qualify SPM. You must have a good SPM result to get yourself qualified to go there. Yeah. And to be honest with you, it's not really what people thought and people perceive, that you cannot do anything else than you choose education. That is not the case, because I've seen with my eyes, and in my own constituency, a lot of my constituents after the SPM, they have handsome result and they chose to go to Institute Perguruan IPG.
Because a lot of these criticisms of teachers these days, unfortunately, come from old teachers from back in the day, the teachers that taught us and everything, who always say, teachers these days. Do you think it's like, why are you slamming your own kind in a way?
No, that's not the case of the teachers. I think the boomers, boomers,
right,
in any area of specialization, are criticizing the millennial and Y generation.
All right. Okay.
Maybe not X generation like us, but I mean those millennials, they keep criticizing the millennials. You got the engineers amongst the boomers. They said, nowadays the younger
That's true.
The young engineers,
So the boomer millennial
the
thing.
same goes to, for example, it's not only the teachers.
Oh man, that's hilarious. That's actually quite true also, yeah.
Boomers, millennials.
Because you see it all over the internet. It's actually quite true. Next one. Digitalization of education. Should we have done it earlier so that we didn't get, because it feels like in a way we were so forced into it because of the MCO and because of the pandemic, and then in a way we were screwed over. Should we have done it earlier? Because in Singapore, they kind of already were trying it out already. And then it was more of a smoother transition getting into it for our teachers and also our students. Digitalization of education. What are your thoughts on this?
It's not only the case of Malaysia. The same question been imposed to, to educators and experts in education in other countries. The other day when I was in a discussion with few educators from southern part of Asia, India, Sri Lanka, even Maldives and Pakistan, Bangladesh, they were talking about the same issue. And I was surprised if that is the case of, let me say, the developing countries. But the same issue is being debated in the UK. The same issue is being debated in some, let me say, developed countries due to the pandemic. The level of preparedness, and people said, we should have been done this 5 years ago, we should have been done that. But if the pandemic didn't happen, people never talk about it.
That's true. Yeah.
But again, to compare ourselves with Singapore is rather unjust. People keep comparing Malaysia with Singapore. I still remember when I was 8 months in the ministry, and some has written in Malaysia Kini column, in the Star column and NST, comparing ourselves with Singapore, saying that, okay, this lousy minister, he couldn't change the education system and our schools. Look at Singapore. Come on, I'm only there for 8 months. You're comparing with Singapore that have gone through a lot of, Singapore, if Singapore has a country as big as Malaysia, I don't think they are as prepared as what they are now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, actually, to be honest with you, we should have started it, and actually we have started it since 2012, but the implementation of it,
yeah,
yeah,
still a digitalization of education.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I don't know how this is going to work, but will we ever get to a point where we're 100% just relying on digital, or will it always be 50-50? Because we're trying to, you watch Star Trek and stuff like this, whatever it is, at some point, everything's just going to be, I'm just going to stay at home and I can learn everything. Does that work? Will digital or online education be all it's supposed to be?
Digital education and technology is inevitable. You cannot avoid it. It's the future. It's going to be part of our life, whether we like it or not. It is here, it is there, and it's going to continue to be with us. But again, when you talk about education is not only about the content. It's not only about what being taught, but it is all about communication. It's all about the relationship between the students and the teachers. Because a lot of things, yes, you can learn online, but when it comes to values, you need to have a face-to-face experience between the teachers and the students.
Okay, let's move on to another one. This is a big one because of...
Before you go to that, I still remember, because now my wife is still lecturing in the university.
Right.
And it's open university. And not only during the MCO, even before the MCO, and even after the MCO, she will continue teaching the students online.
Because that's how she does it, right? Open university.
Yeah. But again, the students keep communicating with her offline.
Right. Because that's just more comfortable, I suppose.
That's the nature of our life.
Yeah.
At least at the moment.
Yeah. Because I'm doing all these courses on Coursera and everything. It's online, but I'm like, am I too old school for this? I need some contact with the teacher at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to, because there was some criticism about ministers talk about about local education, but then they send their kids to international school and private schools. You do it yourself. Private school versus government school. Why don't you?
But again, let me correct that statement.
Right.
When I came to the ministry, I already sent my kids to private school.
Yeah. Right.
Because I came back from the UK and found that my children couldn't get along. Yeah.
But if you could, I don't know how you're gonna even, because I remember reading some of it, right? Walk the talk. This is what a lot of people. I was reading some of the criticisms, right? Why don't you send your own kids to government schools if you believe in the system so much and whatnot in what you're doing? So private school versus government school, there's always going to be a comparison. What are your thoughts on this? Because private school, you pay so much more.
No, it's a matter of choice. JD. I mean, everybody have their own preference. Some of them, they thought that they're sending their children to private school because of quality. Some of them, they're sending their children to private school for some, religious conviction or religious preference. Some of them are sending their kids to private school because of, the language issue.
Or future prospects, even connections and networking, I suppose.
Yes. And talking about private schools, they are a different spectrum of private schools and different kind of private schools. They are international schools, and they are sekolah agama, and they are vernacular private schools, and all sorts of different things. And it's a matter of choice. And you cannot blame anybody who send their children to government school or the private schools. It depends. For example, a friend of mine, he got married to a French girl, and their children, they found very difficult to get along with sekolah kebangsaan, and they decided to send them to French school.
Okay, you're right. It's a personal preference, and no one should be forced to do it, right? And we're gonna talk about this for a bit. What do you think of the controversy with, because we're talking about online learning and whatnot, and this is how it is, right? And then I grew up with TV Pendidikan on RTM1 and whatever. Now they've gone back from online learning, and then they've gone back to TV learning with Didik TV. What are your thoughts on that? Especially with there was a viral video of a teacher, and I think it was on the verge of cyberbullying also when the viral video came out. But what are your thoughts on Didik TV?
First I caught with surprise. Why it was aired and why Didik TV is being run, why education TV, whatever you call TV pendidikan, is being run by a private institution, private, let me say, broadcasting company.
Yeah.
Where is RTM in this? I thought we already paid tax and to RTM, to the government.
Yeah.
And RTM belongs to the government. They have a lot of channels. OK TV used to air 2 hours of TV pendidikan. Why don't they make use of OK TV? Why must they pay another private entity by taxpayers' money for that? And number two, most of these programs involving our teachers. And my question is, do the teachers get paid well? Because they need to prepare.
There's extra work.
Yeah. So and they prepare a lot and they have to teach, and sometimes they were pushed to swim in the ocean that they're not familiar with. That what happened to that teacher, if you remember.
Yeah.
I could see that she
so sad.
Yeah. When I look at her, I know she is loved by her student because she knows how to teach them their subject, the subject matters.
Yeah.
The contents, she knows her contents. But when she was asked to teach in the language that she's not really using it in her daily life, I think we are being unjust to her. So this is not her fault. Actually, it's the fault of the producer. Where is the producer? And why? And if this is the quality of the contents that they are giving to our children, I, as a taxpayer myself, I would like to question where is the quality control. And I keep asking the minister and the parliament, saying that they must be very cautious in the quality of the contents that they put in TV pendidikan.
Do you feel it was a bit rushed that they just came out with this, let's do this, go? Do you think it was like that?
I'm not sure about that because but what I was similarly surprised is after 2 days after they launched TV pendidikan, the school was open back.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so close to SPM. And then SPM students were like, this is not going to help us. It's too late for us. You know what I mean?
And then schools open back. And what's the point of having TV pendidikan?
Yeah. But from a broadcaster point of view, I was like, poor girl, Sorry, what?
No, I mean, I don't know, because I cannot attend the parliament, so I cannot throw the question to the minister. So
and also maybe that's why there's the situation right now that you cannot question anything else, right?
And the government just got away with it.
Yeah.
And nobody asked them how many millions got involved in buying the hours for Didik TV from a private entity.
Do we know how much though? I mean, from where
I have
you
no
are?
idea. I have no idea because there was no parliament sitting.
Right.
Otherwise, I would ask this question.
Right.
Nobody knows about it. It was not, public were not told about it.
Yeah.
And we keep questioning that sum of money. Why can't we use to produce a higher quality contents, and we can use the existing government-owned platform, which is RTM.
Yeah.
That's very basic. And people, normal people could think about it. But since there's no parliament, people couldn't get the answer.
What can you do, right? Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah. Because number one, from a broadcaster standpoint, I'm thinking you're trying to get the attention of kids. And it seems like the teachers were, in a way, forced to do this. I'm sure some of them really want to do this because it gets the information across, it gets their lessons through to the students, and ultimately it's all about the kids learning. But ultimately, also, I thought you're absolutely right. The producers should have done a little bit more work in preparing the presenters, the teachers, to be able to convey their message, because there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to actually get a show out like that. And this one, it involves education. So I was like, when I saw that, sure, everybody slamming it. Initially, I thought, okay, what's really happening here? And then when the teachers started getting cyberbullied, I was like, okay, this is a bit too far, because the poor teacher, we are prepped when we get into the broadcast line. Like, people are gonna slam you. People are gonna comment and they're gonna criticize you. These teachers, they're not prepared for this world. They should have been better prepared, I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're extremely right. But if you remember, JD, when in the 2nd of January, I launched my own TV pendidikan internet platform, Sophia.my. So I think when I launched that, so I suppose they feel that, an individual can do that. We as ministry, we can do better lah.
We have to step up in a way, right?
Yeah. So they ended up after 2 months, they came out with their TV.
Maybe you go, hey, this fella, he's doing this thing. We need to one up him and everything. We need to get better stuff. Now let's talk about getting back to English also in a way lah, because having been in that place at the highest level of governance in the country, at a ministerial level, one of the ministers recently was found to have used or mispronounced some words. And Adiba Noor very famously actually mentioned that maybe, there was a little bit of an Adiba Noor versus Rina Harun kind of thing going on at one point. It wasn't really what it was. I think I know where Adiba is coming from, being an English teacher. But what are your thoughts on this, on ministers using proper English and having good command of English?
And to be honest, it's not the case in many other countries. You go to Africa, they pronounce worse than Rina Harun.
Yeah.
But again, in Malaysia, maybe it's just good. I mean, it's best for the ministers to be well prepared. I still remember during my days then, my English is not that good. So whenever I'm preparing my speech, I will make sure that I pronounce things well. Although sometimes I got carried away with the Geordie accent I pick up from
Newcastle people, right.
and sometimes my staff would say, I have one staff who speaks English much better than my staff, and she kept saying that, okay, please pronounce this properly, and please stop when you reach this. We should be proud, and we should make sure that our minister would be presentable,
Yes.
Not only in their appearance, but also when they give speeches,
because they represent us, the riots,
represent the people.
Because the riots sometimes go, when they hear how our ministers are saying certain things, they're like, ooh, I don't know, because that's our face in public right there, right?
Precisely. And especially nowadays, when they appear on the telly, it's not only the Malaysians are watching them, even people all around the globe are watching them.
Yeah. Because there's at some point where it always goes to where Malaysians always say the only time Malaysia is in the news internationally is when something goes wrong, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right?
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And it's how the world is right now, because everything's it's all on social media and whatnot, and everybody's just there's this cancel culture going on. And I just think that on behalf of all the rakyat, I don't speak for everybody, obviously, but I'm just thinking, because we want to be represented better, is there anything that we can do to help?
Yeah, you're extremely right. And to be honest with you, what inspired me a lot was the movie King's Speech.
Yes,
that movie? How the king was prepared.
Colin Firth, oh my God, yeah.
Because he was started,
Yes.
And then he was trained on how to give a better speech, and he pronounced good English. Him saying, but again,
correct,
you need to be trained.
Yeah.
So what more of your ministers?
Yeah. And everybody needs training. I mean, like I remember Oprah Winfrey famously said that she had to have public speaking training. Is there no public speaking training when you become a minister?
No.
Wow, so just thrown into the deep end.
Yeah, I have to do it by my own. I have to use whatever available sources around me. And I was lucky enough because I was Minister of Education.
Yeah. Because again, you're like, this is the highest level of education in Malaysia. He's our face there, right? So you had to, you got it right. Ultimately, the Adiba Noor versus Rina Harun thing, do you think was blown out of proportion?
I'm not aware of that, to be honest. It's a shame to admit that, but no, I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it was big on social media. It was just like everybody
Really?
was just slamming the minister, and some people even slam Adiba, and I'm like, again, it's how trolls work, right? But if you were to be given a chance to go back to the Minister of Education now, would you do it?
That's a very good question. I keep being asked about it, but the question is how?
Things could happen. If let's just say a general election happened.
Okay. If God destined it, let it be. Let it be. Let it be.
But if the portfolio was open to you and then they said, Maszlee, pick and choose one ministry, would you pick Ministry of Education again? Definitely.
Hell
And become
yeah.
Minister of, yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then what would be the first thing you would do again?
I would try to execute the new education model. The Jantan Kuasa Kajian Dasar, we bring it back and we are going to implement that.
Nice. I'll be very frank. I think you got some really bad bad press when you were minister, and I think a lot of it was uncalled for, because I think you were doing the best you could with whatever you had, and I really hope that you can get all that you want to push ahead for education, because I think you're a great guy. You're genuine in what you want to do for education.
JD, it's not about me. It's about the nation and what is the best for the future of our children.
See, just saying that, you're the right guy for the job already. But now, Dr. Maszlee, I need your help for Jantans, for men out there, for us Jantans, right? How can we get up to the next level? Because ultimately, that's what this network is all about. That's what this show is all about. We want to help the Jantans. What tips can you share for all Jantans who are trying to be better versions of ourselves?
First and foremost, you should pick one specific day to be known as the Jantan's Day.
One day in a year.
Okay, which during the Jantan Day, all those who thought themselves as Jantan must do the kindest thing to others.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
I love that.
If they thought the kindest thing they could do is to help the elders or the old folks, do that. If they thought that the kindest thing they could do is feeding the stray dogs, they do it. If they thought the kindest thing they could do is helping their children doing homework, do that. By doing all those kindest things, we are becoming Jantan, the real Jantan.
You are an honorary Jantan from the Jantan Collective right now. You are the big Jantan in education.
Oh, come on.
we are definitely gonna get you one of these t-shirts, because we are gonna get you Mr. Education Jantan, because it's been a long one already. But Dr. Maszlee Malik, thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts with us today.
My pleasure, and I thank you guys. I thank you to all the Jantans out there.
Hope you enjoyed that discussion with Dr. Maszlee Malik. Now, please leave your comments below, because we want to hear from you. What do you think of our education system? What needs to change? What's great about it? What's not? We want to hear from you. But you know what? Thanks so much for watching. And most importantly, don't be a dick.